Hey, Rifters, welcome to the show. Subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. Uh, Support the show on patreon.com/, RazorRift61. Become a Rifter for $25. Get all the benefits, top tier. Become a second tier, get the second top benefits. Or just be a Rifter and get the worst type of benefits. Anyways, I'm so excited for this show. Ever since I started the podcast with the great Alan Lee, uh, we wanted to always get this guest, but we could never find him. And then when we did find him, uh, we just we just got no answers, and he's very hard to track down. But shout out to the great Patrick Carson for setting this up. Like, I owe him an arm and a leg, man. Like, seriously, this is a dream come true interview for me. So, Patrick, if you do listen to this, thank you so much. I really do appreciate this. Um, but yeah, we got the great Daniel Stern on Zoom. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be just me and Daniel Stern. And when you get to talk to people you really admire, it's always cool. It's always like, hey, dreams do come true, at least for me. So I like that. Daniel Stern uh, has always been one of my comic influences. I just think he's just so funny, and his films really helped me out a lot, with laughter. So of course, everyone knows him from Home Alone and City Slickers and the Wonder Years. Um, you know, but Celtic Pride was one of my favorite movies. Bushwhacked was one of my favorite movies. Rookie of the Year was one of my favorite movies. Um, you know, so I'm just so psyched to actually talk to the great Daniel Stern. He has a new book out. You guys could buy it everywhere, Barnes and Nobles, Amazon. I bought it on my sister's Kindle, and I started reading it. And so like I'm on chapter 3, right? And then I forgot I bought it on my sister's Kindle. So like when I was going to reread it, because my sisters only come over Friday and Saturday, because they succeed in life. They moved out, But I guess I haven't. Anyways, that's not the point. The point is I accidentally bought it on my sister's Kindle, and I thought it was my Kindle, but I actually bought it on my sister's Kindle. And I don't know if you could transfer books to Kindles, or maybe you can, and I just didn't know that. But yeah, but it's on her Kindle. So I was kind of a little bummed because I wanted to finish reading this book. But I'm definitely going to finish it. And so far, it's just so funny. It's so heartwarming. And it's just awesome. And it's called Home and Alone. And it's by Daniel Stern. And you could get it everywhere, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. And yeah, so I'm so blessed to really get this interview. And yeah, that's all I can say. This weekend, because this episode will be out on Monday, so I will plug it. This weekend, I will be at Hyenas, Texas, Fort Worth, in the Red Room. You should come see me, comedian KG and Head Richards. Uh, he may or may not be there. He will be at the club because he's opening up for David Keckner in the main room. I'm in the small room, the red room they call it. It only seats 100, but I really need to sell this out, guys. So Fort Worth, Dallas area, you could see me one show only, Friday, June 7th. Let's go. It's going to be great. I'm going to give you the best show you've ever seen in your life. And yeah, we fortunately we won't be able to add more shows because we haven't, done great numbers to add those shows, so they booked those spots. But if we sell out this show, then we could like get the date for next year, and then we could really plug it, and then we'll add more shows with the plugs and stuff. So yeah, so support it. if you're in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. Even if you're in Texas, just make the drive. You know what I mean? Just say, hey, I want to go see Reza Riffs. And I'll be like, yeah, uh, come. I'll sign autographs and I'll take pictures, and I do that after every single show, regardless. I don't if you buy products or not. I always say hi to everyone, and that's very hard for me to do, by the way. Like, but I do that because I know it's important. Another thing, guys. I am gonna plug this movie one more time, only because it's very good and very special to me. You gotta see Ezra. Like, I just had Tony Goldwyn and Tony Spiridakis on. You gotta go see Ezra. It's a great movie. It's about a stand-up comedian who kidnaps his son who has autism, and that movie just relates to me because I'm a stand-up comedian and I have autism, and I really think it's a movie that will change people's lives. It will give a better understanding to autism, and I think Hollywood got it right on that, because I do think autism is one of those things that Hollywood gets wrong a lot. And like I said before, I don't think they purposely made to do it. I just think it's just something that just they get wrong. And this movie, I think they got right. And I think that a lot of it was because the writer has an autistic son, so I think he knows what he's doing. So I think that was really cool. So guys, if you could go see Ezra, that'd be cool. Give him a plug. That was a great movie, one of my best movies. And now let's go to why we're here. If you're a fan of Daniel Stearns, thank you so much for coming. I'm excited. Um, you know, this is a big dream come true. And, I hope you stay for the rest of the episodes. We got great interviews coming up. Again, join us on Patreon, www.patreon.com/RazorRiff61, and be a top tier supporter. That'd be cool. You get the videos to get the episodes released 3 days early, get a free cameo from me, and you get shout outs after the podcast. So, yeah, guys. Also, as always, don't forget to subscribe, rate, review to all your podcast areas and tell a friend. And, guys, enjoy Razor Riffs with the great Daniel Stern.
You're listening to Reza Riffs with Keith Reza and Alan Lee, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Okay.
Hi, Daniel Stern.
Hey, how are you, Keith?
Good. Thank you so much for saying yes. I really do appreciate this.
My pleasure. Patrick said you've been trying to track me down, and I said, well, if you're that persistent,
I owe Patrick an arm and a leg. I really do.
well, he's expecting it in the mail. That should be disgusting.
Well, thank you. I really do appreciate it. I plugged your book in the opening remarks, but I just wanted to ask you a couple questions about it because I downloaded it on my sister's Kindle and I read the first 3 chapters, but my sister no longer lives with us, and I couldn't finish it because I forgot I downloaded it on
Well,
her.
it doesn't end. I'm still here. So the story is continuing, but
But I'm gonna read the rest this weekend. But I was like so excited. But like, have you ever done that where you're like, oh, and then it just got mixed up? I was like really bummed because the first 3 chapters are so great.
well, that's great. Yeah, I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
I've read it 100, it's been quite a process for me. I mean, I'm a high school dropout. I couldn't read as a kid. I had dyslexia. So writing the book itself has been quite a fun project, and a learning experience. And it's crazy that it's out there being read. So the fact that you've read as much as you have, it blows my mind that people are reading it, because it sort of started as just like a recounting of like, how the heck did I get here, man? I'm the luckiest guy I've ever met. And stop for a second and just kind of wrote down like, oh, I was born in Philly, and then that happened. Then I, oh yeah, mom let me walk to grandpa's house, and then like I sort of just took a little effort to lay out my life a little bit just for me. And
Yeah.
then it sort of developed into, oh, those are funny stories. And I started to write stories. And then I thought, oh, that's sort of like what a book is. So it's been, now that it's actually out, that's the wild ending to all of this. Regrouping of myself is like, you're reading it. That's
Yeah.
nuts. That's
It,
absolutely nuts.
it's also like such an amazing accomplishment because like I don't want to get too into it, but I toured with Norm Macdonald for 9 years. He was my best
Oh my
friend.
God, really?
Yeah, and he
Love
wrote
him. He's my one of my idols. His book is crazy good.
yes.
Inspired me in a lot of ways. I read a few before I try, like I said, I'm going to do it. Norm's book, brilliant. I mean, he was brilliant. It was his perfect book. And,
Yeah.
oh, that's amazing experience for you to tour with him for 9 years.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he always loved his book like most than everything. Like once he finished, he's like Reza, I finished the book, man. And
Yeah. Very good imitation.
you know, so like the happiness he had when he finished it, like
Yeah.
it really is an accomplishment. I could just only imagine for you, like right when you
Yeah.
finished it, you're like, all right,
Exactly. And then I show like I got they sent me copies of it and I got it and I gave it to my mom for Mother's Day. It was like she lives on our farm here with us, and she, she knows like what an accomplishment it is too. My wife, I mean, everybody's like, well, I mean, the book starts. It was, the first line of the book is like, when I told my mother I'm going to actually write a book, she said, "You're going to write a book? You can't even read a book. And why do you think people care enough about you that they're going to read a book about you?" And
yeah, I
it was
love
like,
the
I mean, she's wonderful. And all that is in honesty and good humor, but, challenging. And so, we all know it's quite an accomplishment for me to have written a book. Whoa.
yeah. Well, like I said, I think it's brilliant so far, and I can't wait to finish reading it. And seriously, congratulations! Like
Thank you.
that's such an honor to finish
When's
something.
your book coming out?
Oh, I only have the title. My book's my
What's it
title.
called?
It's called "How to Annoy Daniel Stern to Say Yes to
Well,
do your
it's a
podcast."
winner so far. I'm telling you, that book gets under your skin, and you can't put it down. And here I am.
uh, but so like I wanted to start with Home Alone. I know you get asked a lot of Home Alone questions, so I just wanted to say like I don't know if you know this, but you have for a kids movie the funniest joke in cinema history in Home Alone, where Macaulay Culkin slides across the tree and Joe Pesci's like, "Where'd he go?" You're like, "Maybe he committed suicide." Like that's.
I forgot about that one.
And uh,
That's and
was
you
that it?
consider that
Yeah.
the greatest joke
Oh
ever?
my god. Yeah, for a kids movie, yeah, it's dark. I was like, holy
That's
lord.
true for a kids movie. That is, yeah. Well, I mean, that's funny. Everybody asks the spider on the face and Joe Pesci and the brick in the face. But that's great. I'm so glad you. Yeah, I mean that Home Alone phenomenon. I love it. I go through my whole life now with people saying, "Oh, it's so funny. It's a great movie. You made me laugh." Or we sit with my family at Christmas time and watch it. It was a big turn in my life in a lot, personally, professionally, for better and worse, and all. I mean, and yeah, but it's just an amazing way to go through life that I don't somehow stumbled into.
Yeah. And there's also something special about you because not only did you do the sequel to Home Alone, but you also did both City Slickers, and those are two movies where the sequels are just as good as the original. You know what I mean?
I do. I mean, it's I'd never been part of a sequel thing before, and then I had back-to-back sequels on two great movies that had very high standards and places in people's hearts. I mean, those were two of the best scripts I ever read, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was the thing. Like the first time I read Home Alone, I was on the friggin' floor laughing and crying at the end when they all get reunited. I mean, John Hughes wrote a brilliant, brilliant script, and then came back on the second one and was able to take. You couldn't like with our parts, you couldn't go back and say we're going to be that scary. Like
Right.
at the beginning of the first Home Alone, we're we're really scary. You got Joe Pesci for God's sakes. And by the end, you know that we're really idiots. And then he started us as idiots already and then just took that from 10 to 15 on the charts, you know. So I mean, he really put that together. And the same with City Slickers. I mean, I had a dearer place in my heart for the first one because I loved the message of the first one. You know, we
Yeah.
were going to bring in the herd, and it was, I mean, it was a brilliant script about little guys, up against the odds and all that. And the second one was more like we were trying to get the gold. And I thought, come on, we're not gold guys. We're little cow. We save little cows. But it was so friggin' funny. So many funny things, and and so fun to shoot it. I mean, all that Western stuff, again, I find myself in the weirdest places. I'm doing a real Western, riding a wagon train, or whatever, crazy.
But so like isn't that fun though? Like I mean, I know acting can be very stressful at times, especially if you're like if you think like oh certain scripts kind of but like when you do like the training for that, like riding a horse and just like it's like a new adventure to the acting. You know what I mean?
Oh, completely. I mean, the film acting is tremendous. I used to think of myself, that's how I started as a theater actor,
Yeah.
and I love doing plays. And it's like, I'm never doing a play again as long as I live. Because number one, I mean, it's so much pressure. I love take two. I love take three in the movies. With the last play I did a few years ago, I'm like, man, I'm worried about this all day. And you're kind of doing the same thing every day. The excitement in the movies and television at this point too is, the work is different every day. You get to pretend to be things any kid in the world would want to pretend. If you're riding, horses, the horse is trained. You have professional people. When I jump in a river in Bushwhacked, I mean, one of the favorite things I did in that one, jump in a river and get shot down the rapids, and I really got to do that. But I had 17 safety guys around, so it's like you get to do all these crazy things, which not only adds an extra adventure to it, but it also enhances the acting. You're really doing it.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
like, no acting required.
Yeah.
That's when I'm at my best, when no
But
acting is required, because
Bushwhacked was so great. And I remember when I saw it at like I watch it now, I know that it wasn't a sequel, but I remember when I was a kid when I watched it, for some reason I thought it was a sequel to Home Alone. You know what I
whoa.
mean? Like I thought your character just like a
I
maybe
definitely bent
yeah.
into it, Yeah, no, it was fun. And I was on a little groove there of, I love being funny that way at that time. I mean, Home Alone released the Kraken in me of the Stooges and Roadrunner and all the funny things physical comedy. I just loved the physical comedy. I'd never gotten to do it. And yeah, Bushwhack came along. So I was developing movies, and I produced that movie and, helped on the rewrite of the movie and sort of tailored it. And yeah, no, I had a blast doing it. The problem with the Bushwhack, just the little story about Bushwhack, was that like kids, we made it was 10-year-old Cub Scouts and me, right? And they saved the day and all that. And I thought it was really funny. We tested the movie, but then we got a PG-13 rating.
Yeah.
And so like 10-year-olds couldn't come to it. And then 13-year-olds were like, I don't want to see a movie about 10-year-olds.
Exactly.
I want to see a movie about 16-year-olds. And so the movie didn't do that well at the box office because I had to cut two of the best jokes in it, and I couldn't bring myself to cut the Barbie and Ken, teaching the kids about sex with the Barbie and Ken doll. and then peeing off the side of the that for some reason we got a PG-13 for them peeing off the side of the mountain or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. The ratings thing was tough in those days.
But I wanted to ask you about the bear scene. Was that like a real bear? Were you terrified of that? Oh my God.
Yes and yes. No, but he was a famous bear. He was like Bart the Bear, I think is his name. And like I had to be right up on him. He had to be right up on me and play dead. And but there was like I got to the set and there he was, and they had like just the thinnest wire on four posts, like
Yeah.
that maybe 2 feet high. So the wire runs around like a fence, but it's just one wire 2 feet high, and the bear is 10 feet high inside it. And he goes, "Yeah, he doesn't go outside of that, so don't worry." I'm like, "Oh, and we won't see the wire in the shot, so he's not going to come." I'm like, "What? That's the plan? That's the protection?" But everybody, you got to trust everybody knows what they're doing. And when else would I ever get to be that close to a bear like that? So it's a one
Yeah.
in a million experience, and it is a little bit. It does get that sphincter tightened up a little, but but once you do it, it's like, damn, I got
Yeah.
to do that. So
It's also like plus back in the in those days, because you've had two big animal scenes with the bear and the spider, but like there was no internet, so you couldn't really Google to see, oh, is it gonna eat me? Is it gonna
yeah,
stay? You know what I mean? So like you had to rely on a guy who was a professional, and he
right,
didn't really know.
right, because it's still an animal. You can Google a lot of it. It's like that animal, if it decides to do it, it's going to do it. Yes, I mean, and give him another fish. I don't know. I hope he's well fed. I hope he's well fed. What are we supposed to be rooting for here?
Yeah.
But again, he'd been in that bear was legendary. He'd been in big movies. He might have been Big Ben, or I mean, like
Oh
Ben
yeah.
Air. I
Wow.
mean, like he was like a pro.
Yeah.
And so again, you get that. It's as safe as you're ever going to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good thing you didn't have any honey on you or something, otherwise you'd be in
That would have
trouble.
been so stupid. That would have been so stupid. And I'm stupid, but uh,
Uh,
somebody stopped me before I honeyed myself. Before the no, Dan, what are you doing? Don't put honey on. You're gonna go do a scene with a bear.
yeah. I would have been like, well, Winnie the Pooh likes honey. He's nice. Uh,
Well, good luck.
yeah. So another thing about your physical comedy, and like actually Norm and I had this talk, like because we watch a lot of movies in the hotel rooms and stuff, and watch some of your movies. We always said that you were like the Jim Carrey before Jim Carrey, just with your physical attack. You know what I mean? So like we always
Oh,
thought you were on the top of the physical comedy.
that I can't. I can't take a better compliment than that.
Yeah.
I mean, from you and Norm about Jim Carrey is as good as it gets. That guy's a genius. Side note
Yeah.
for your listeners, um, I was the original director on Ace Ventura.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Oh, that's so awesome.
So I had that script. I had that script for a year, and I'm like, the movie's about what? And like, okay, so he's a pet detective, and then Dan Marino's at the end, like really Dan Marino, and like I was trying to shape it into a movie, like a movie that I could understand, and
Right.
I never like if you look at the plot of it and you look at the scenes, it's like and then I finally had to give up the movie because it's like I've tried, I've done a few drafts with the writer, but like I'm not going to bring this one home, and then they find Jim Carrey
Yeah.
and cast Jim Carrey, and it didn't make a lick of difference what was in the script. Jim Carrey just exploded off the screen, and I suddenly saw the whole. I mean, that was fun to just have a little inside track on the explosion of Jim Carrey. I mean, besides on Living Color, and then he bursts out. I mean, he's blown my mind my whole life, and his art, by the way, is killer.
Yeah.
His painting skills, and he's a Renaissance man, and I so respect him.
Yeah, speaking of art, your art is actually fantastic. Your sculptures. I saw your website and I was
Oh,
like, "Oh
thanks.
my God." Because
Yeah.
I've been trying to get you for like 12 years. So like I know that you do that. And like I just wanted to ask you like how long does it take you because
Mhm.
I don't know the first thing about that. Like
Yeah.
that seems like it's a lot of work and a lot of patience.
It is. It is. And that's what I love about it. I mean, I love to have a job and I love to be creative. And the sculpture, yeah, I've been doing it about 20 years now. I mean, those pieces, like the life-size pieces, might take me, 3 months to sculpt. And I'm on a farm and I used to have the first art studio I rented was down in Culver City in like the a cool art district. I mean, it was sort of pre-cool, but there was art galleries, and I started to sell my stuff there. And then I had another studio at another spot, and then we moved to this farm. So I've built a studio in the orchard.
Oh,
So
nice.
I walk to my studio now through my avocado farm, and go to the studio, and I spend 8 hours there every day.
Yeah.
I mean, because it does take that patience. It's just a lot of hard work. There's moments of inspiration. There's tedium. There's, creativity. There's other people involved. I sculpt my pieces in clay, and then there's a foundry, and I take the sculpture to the foundry. They make a mold of it, and then cast it in bronze. So there's some collaboration, but I love it because I'm in control of it. I do it whenever I want to. I don't have to get picked out of the lineup to get the part. I don't have to get financing for my film. I don't have to jump through the hoops. I just do my art. And it's very freeing, and it makes everything better, including my acting and it gave, like, again, I've sort of moved out of just being an actor and try to live a full art life. And the book was kind of part of that too. Like, oh, that's
Yeah,
another way to tell story. It's all telling stories. We're all just telling stories all the time. And
definitely.
and to every that's the whole human existence, and the art is about telling stories. So these are different ways. That's what I've come to realize. It's all the same thing to me. And these are different ways of telling stories. And the sculpture is a real consistent way and a powerful way for me anyway. I love the size of the sculptures and the feeling it gets from people in the right way. It's not going to change the world, but art doesn't. It just moves the needle a little bit. So it's
Yeah.
another to keep going.
Well, Daniel Stern, if I ever become, because one of my goals is to become an actor. If I ever become a famous actor, the first thing I'll do is I'm going to buy one of your sculptures because
Well,
I'm broke. I don't have any money now, but I really want to support you, so I
Well,
want to
thank
do
you
that.
very much, but just enjoy it as ever you want to. If you can, maybe you'll come over my house and just take a look, and that might be enough. But when you are a famous, rich actor, I'm going to hold you to that. Why
Yeah,
aren't
for
you?
sure.
Why aren't you an actor then, if you want to be?
Well, because so like a little about me is I have Asperger's syndrome, so
Uh-huh.
I was very nonverbal growing up.
Oh,
And stand-up comedy really saved me. And like I went to speech therapy and stuff, and I started doing stand-up. And
awesome.
I always thought, hey, stand-up, it'll put me in the movies, right?
Mhm.
That's what I thought. But my stand-up, I just talk about having autism. So I feel like maybe I before this was before like diversity was
Right,
accepted. You know what I mean? So I
right.
feel like maybe that kind of I feel I'm a very successful stand-up for at my level, but
Yeah.
I don't know if I could ever be a movie star. But it's still my
Well,
goal.
it depends on the what part, it's aligning the stars, right?
Yeah,
It's going to be the right part for you, the right movie for an audience, caught at the right time. I mean, it is like lightning in a bottle to become a movie star.
yeah.
Being a movie star is much different than being an actor too, by the way.
No,
uh,
definitely. Yeah,
and it starts with acting. But the fun thing, I think, in this, like, my first movie, I got cast. I was in a play. That felt like there was a way. Like, I was in a play. I got an agent. The agent sent me to an audition, and I got the movie. And like, I got in the game. And now the game is very challenging, and it comes at it all the different social media ways of being successful as much as traditional media. But I think there's opportunity there. So if you have a story to tell,
Yeah. I could
do have
take
a
an
story to
iPhone and
tell,
do it. Yeah.
make your movie. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing really between you and doing it anymore. That's what, like there's a downside to so much happening, and the cacophony of sound that comes at people, and images and all that. But it does give you opportunity to, like, hey, tell a story, or tell your story how you want to. The technology's kind of there. So I'm
No,
expecting to be a
for sh-
self-made movie star the
for
next
sure.
week, because I've got a hot sculpture waiting for you, and I'm gonna need that green stuff.
I've got to do it, man. Even if I have to take it out of my 401k, I promise you I'll do it. But I also feel like it's also because like Norm trained me in stand up, and like whenever Norm did a movie, he fucking hated it.
Yeah,
He was like, ah, fuck, I gotta do another movie, and like he never did movies because he didn't like it. So
yeah.
like
You could sort
maybe
of
that's
tell.
yeah,
You could sort of tell in the movies that he didn't like it. It was beneath him the whole way, because he had his own story to tell, man, and he really found that he rode the wave of his own story so brilliantly. And that's the whole thing of being an artist of any kind.
yeah.
You got to understand your truth, your story, and tell it in a way that hits the audience, and comedy can't beat that, man. That's the best way. For me, that's where you get, I mean, I wish I had the nerve. I wish I had the nerve to do stand-up comedy and a really good comic script. I'd love to
You-
play a comic in a movie where the jokes are written for me, and all
oh,
that. But I mean that,
I have a comic movie script.
well,
You could be the comic, and I could. Oh my, let's do it.
I'm in.
Okay.
Get your phone out. I'll get my phone. We'll have two cameras shooting at all time. And
Oh
no,
my god.
well, it's the most dramatic of all the performing arts in some ways. I mean, trapeze artists, there's the danger of that is obvious and clear, but the stand up takes such nerve to stand up there and make people think and make people laugh, and it's like just do or die. I mean, I I watch comedy all the time. That's my favorite thing to watch, and it just for the drama of it as well as the comedy, because
Yeah.
the rope walking is crazy what you guys do. So
You would be a great stand-up though. You really
well,
would.
I'd like to think so, because I've got an act, and I need my cigars. Where's my cigars?
Did you ever consider doing that? Like, or was it something you wanted to flirt with, or were you just like,
No,
oh, really?
terrified, terrified. I mean, I could be a funny person, but like. I choke, I would choke. I mean, I've emceed, like I've emceed events. That's as close as I've come. Actually, in the book, I write about, like, I emceed a few fundraisers with Mel Gibson, and I were the co-hosts
Oh my
of,
god.
of these massive fundraisers in Malibu. And we had like a fantastic comedy writer, Mike Scully, who wrote for The Simpsons.
I
Still,
love Mike Scully. Oh my
yes, so
god.
Scully wrote the jokes, and me and Mel did the jokes, and then we had music. We raised a bunch of money. We started a Boys and Girls Club in Malibu,
Oh.
and so we were fundraising for the Boys and Girls Club, which still to this day is operating 20 years later, has 1,000 kids. And by the way, all the money that I make from the book, I'm giving to the Boys and Girls Club. So all the money from the book goes to the Boys and Girls Club.
Oh my god,
So
that's so
I
awesome.
really, I mean, you'll see in the book when you finish it, when you visit your sister next time, yeah, I mean, that's a big part of the story, is empowering young people, and the Boys and Girls Club was a place that we put a lot of heart and soul into. But anyway, that was my closest. The point being, that was my closest to stand-up comedy, was
Yeah.
doing those fundraiser shows where we're emceeing and doing the shtick of whatever Mike wrote, and I mean, and it was fun, but I had a script,
Yeah.
and it was also terrifying. I don't think I could just stand up there like you guys do and be yourself and talk about your life and talk about, and finding the humor and the connection.
Uh,
That's
I
way above my pay grade.
I will train you. I think you would be great. So
Well,
I
good. If we're
wanted
doing it in the movie, then I get to do take two. Oh shit, I
to,
fucked up that joke. Yeah, let me do that one again.
but that's part of the movie because the movie is like about my relationship with Norm and how he mentored me. So you'll be playing Norm, and
I'll
I'll
be
be
playing Norm.
uh,
Shit,
yeah, and
really?
I'll be playing myself. Yeah. So it's like
Do I
a
have to do a Norm Macdonald impression? Is
no,
it
you
Norm?
yeah, you could just be yourself.
I can just be me. I don't have to be
Yeah.
Norm because that's impossible.
No, the character name in the movie is Norm, but it's based on Norm. Yeah. We could
Right, of
ch-
course. Okay.
we could change
Well,
the
I
last
gotta.
name to Stern.
No, I'll. Norm Stern. God, that sounds like a movie star name if I ever heard, or at least a comic's name. That's for sure. And Norm Stern would have a cigar. It's going to be a
Exactly.
perfect part for my comic persona. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be the best, and like they'll be like, yeah, like so, yeah. I'm so excited for us to do this. I wanted to ask you about Rookie of the Year. I have two Rookie of the Year questions because that's one of my favorite comedies too. So I wanted to ask you, like,
Hit me.
how did you, because you also directed it, but you also played this fantastic character, very wacky, very like you put a whole bunch of gum in your mouth, you get baseballs hit by you. Like, how, what in your mind, like, what do you think? I'm gonna put a little more ranch on this tender. You know what I mean? Like, how do you do that?
I, again, I was in a frame of mind of being as silly as I could. I loved the movie. I mean, I got the script, I developed the script. I was mostly about directing that movie. I wanted to make the leap to being a director, and there wasn't really a part in it for I didn't even think of a part in it for me. There was the baseball pitcher Gary Busey's part and the kid and the mom and the friends, and it was like, and then the studio said, well, because Home Alone was hot then, or we'd just done the sequel or something, so they said, why don't you be in the movie?
Yeah,
And then that will help get like the Home Alone crowd. The studio wanted me to be in it so that it's fine you're directing it, but like if they see you do something stupid, we'll get more butts in the seats.
right,
So, but then I wanted to I didn't want to be in the movie that much because I really wanted to focus on directing it.
right.
So there was like a lot of baseball teams in it. So I made up that shtick about like I get stuck in something. Like I get stuck between the doors, and I get stuck in the batting cage, in the cage, and I keep missing. But it was so that I would keep missing the games, so that when I filmed the games, I didn't have to be there. I
Yeah,
could just be directing rather than being the third base coach. So that was the strategy, and the character kind of came about because I loved it was sort of an homage to baseball, and we were shooting at Wrigley Field, the most historic field ever, and it was like an homage to old time baseball,
yeah,
and sort of, and so I made the Brick character like as old timey as I could be, and have all these sayings that didn't make any sense. I still get hot ice. It's the best of both worlds. I mean, like it was so fun and so silly, and let the big dog eat. I mean, but I had such a blast shooting it because I was taking batting practice. I was playing baseball at Wrigley Field with professional baseball players and directing a movie and having a fun part. So that was the time of my life doing that movie. I was firing on all cylinders.
the best part of that about that role is because like even though he was the pitching manager, you when you watch it, you kind of think maybe he's not. Maybe he's just a hardcore fan.
Exactly. Who everybody thought, did you invite him? Yeah, I thought you invited him. And he got, he just assumes he's on the team. That I've never heard that theory, but that fits perfect.
And then I wanted to ask, what was it like directing John Candy? Because
By
I
the
know.
way, you've got a well, I was just going to say you have a touch of John Candy in you.
Oh,
You have
really?
that same spirit and that same laugh. Yeah, I can see a young John Candy in you. And That I was just going to say that was the added on delight of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because when we shot the movie and then we like again, you do test audience stuff and we did it for a test audience and the audience really dug the movie. So Fox paid a little bit extra and we added in the announcer like that wasn't part of the original movie. So
Yeah.
we built a whole set inside the sound stage and had John for 3 days. And John just stayed up in the booth for 3 days and riffed all day and did the scenes and called the games. And I would tell him, okay, there's a guy on third. I mean, we had to map out, he had to call the games and be funny and go nuts. And I got to see his genius. I got to watch him do some of his improv on Home Alone. And I mean, I was a fan before, all the way back to SCTV. I was watching that when that
Yeah.
was first on. And then got to watch him do his night when he shot on Home Alone. And then I had him for 3 days and he was a 1 in a million. And, can't, I mean, just the kindest and polite and all that Canadian crap.
Yeah.
You're the
I know all about that Canadian crap.
Yeah, I know. Nice people and polite and doing their jobs and being prepared. What is that about? Come on. It's a
Always telling you what you want to hear.
yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Uh, and then we have to talk about Celtic Pride. So Celtic Pride is a fantastic movie, and I think we got to bring it up because the Celtics are in the final. So how cool is that? Like if you did Celtic Pride 2 right now, you'd be like,
Hmm. I'd be filming. I'd be back there filming right now to get some live footage. Yeah, that was another 1 in a million. Like, the funny thing is that was we shot that in the old Boston Garden.
yeah,
It was a legendary, as iconic as Wrigley Field. Like the Boston Garden was where the Celtics built their whole dynasty to start with. So the Garden was closing. There was no. They played their last season there, and I'd never been there, and I cared so much for some reason because I loved the Celtics, and then I hated the Celtics, and then I loved the Celtics, and I hated them. But I flew myself back there and got a ticket to the last game. And I
oh,
went and saw the last game, and it was an amazing experience to see all the players out on the floor and all this. And I was like, I never do stuff like that. I don't go on exotic anythings, but that one I had to.
right,
And then like 3 months later, I get cast in Celtic Pride that's shooting in the Garden. So
yeah,
I go back to the Garden, and it's 3 months of playing basketball on the parquet and having John Havlicek and Bob Cousy and Red Auerbach and Larry Bird come to the set and hang out and shoot and take a
oh,
professional basketball camp when all the training was happening. And I mean, it was again, I don't remember much about the movie, just the experience of playing it. I mean, it was a funny movie, and Dan Aykroyd, and again, the whole
oh,
experience.
he's the best, man.
Oh, he's the best.
Yeah,
The friendship with Dan, I mean, because we sat next to each other for 3 months, cracking each other up in the stands, and watching the games. And he's a 1 in a million too. Again, my blessed life of the people I've come across, Candy and Aykroyd, to work with those guys. And Dan's an exotic beast.
yeah.
He's got Asperger's, I think. I think
Yeah,
Dan.
I was gonna say just
Yeah,
gonna say that he was the first celebrity that came out when
yeah.
Asperger's was around, and he, right when it was because when I was diagnosed in 1999, I actually remember the day I was diagnosed. I was diagnosed March 10th, 1999, and I remember that day because for Christmas, like my family's very poor, so for Christmas we got Laker tickets to go see Eddie Jones play for the Lakers, and Eddie Jones was my favorite player.
Wow.
The day I got diagnosed, March 10th, 1999, the Lakers traded him for Glenn Rice. And the tickets we had was for April. So I was like so bummed.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? I was like, so ever since then, I've hated the Lakers.
Yeah, I can see why.
Like, I felt so betrayed,
That is, but well, when I was growing up, my team, I grew up in outside DC in
Yeah,
Bethesda, Maryland, and my team, I had the baseball team, the Washington Senators, who I loved.
yeah,
They moved. Like
Oh
one year,
my God.
I just like left town. All my favorite players. It was like, what? Everybody just left town and they became the Texas Rangers. And I
Oh.
hate the Texas Rangers. So I know the feeling of betrayal that you're feeling there.
The sports teams should not be allowed to do this stuff until after the season. You know what I mean?
Agree.
Oh man. And then I wanted to ask you because I remember watching this when I was a kid. It wasn't very on for very long, but you had your own sitcom. And I wanted to know what was that like because you created it and like because that's totally different than movie making. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
So
no, it was a brand new I wrote a show. Again, my wife and I started the Boys and Girls Club.
yeah.
My dad was a social worker. My mom taught nursery school. And so like that was always important to me. So I got asked by CBS if I would develop a show. And like having the limited imagination that I have, I wrote a show about a guy named Danny, who runs a community center and has kids with my kids' names, and his father's got my father's name. So it was autobiographical at the time,
Yeah.
and that was very unusual for me to, and I wrote the pilot script from, just my experience and the fun and funniness of having teenage kids. There was nothing more exciting to me than raising teenagers and all this, that transition from kid to adulthood and being a father and running a community center and all the crazy things that happen at a boys and girls club and all the friendships and all the silliness and all the different people that come through community centers. So yeah, so it was a beautiful creative experience. Then they picked it up and I got to hire a writing staff and build sets and shoot. I was direct. One show was being shot, the other's being written, the next one's being edited. I'm in every scene. The we're casting. Like I was again just on all cylinders, and that's what I love to be creatively on fire like that. Was again, I've never really gotten to that speed again of all the things. Well, then, and the show was just everything I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And then we were going to our opening day was September 18th, 2001,
And
which
then
was
9/11 kind of yeah.
9/11 hit. And like, who the heck wants to see they posted
Comedy. Yeah.
it, so it sort of bombed that way. I mean, it did bomb that way, and they canceled us. But it was still one of the best things of my life. Creatively, I learned so much, learned what I could handle, learned how to tell stories in a television way rather than a movie beginning, middle, and end. But a television show, they're open ended. You're not,
Yeah.
and just the style of writing and the style of humor and all that. It was a brilliant creative experience for me.
We should bring it back and
Yes.
just do it now and I'll write on the staff with you and it'll be awesome.
Well, I think, let's get it going.
All right, cool.
But I mean, I think first the movie.
First the movie.
First
Definitely.
the movie.
Cause the movie's
We've already made a commitment to that.
yes.
So
I just want to be your new best friend.
well, I can see that happening. You're a terrific guy. I really, you're a very enjoyable conversationalist, and you got a great sense of humor. Do you tour still now? Are you out there?
Yeah, so right now I tour with TJ Miller when he's on the West Coast.
Oh, uh-huh.
So I mean I know you live on a farm, so I think you live by Ventura,
Yeah,
Oxnard area.
Ventura. Yeah, exactly.
Next time I'm around there,
There's a couple. There's a couple of comedy clubs out here I go to, and
yeah,
they're fun. Yeah.
I'll invite you. I'll get you in, free tickets. You won't have to buy anything all night.
As much as I can drink.
As much as you can drink. Yeah.
Eh,
Just
well,
don't give me a $7,000 tab. I mean,
You know what I can do. You know the damage. I would be very careful. I would be very careful with that.
I'll just say, all right, you get one drink and one food.
There you go. I think that you're going to do better by that. Sophisticated businessman you are.
I want to respect your time. Do I have a couple more minutes to ask
Yeah,
these
yeah.
questions?
I got to go in about 8 minutes.
8 minutes. Okay, cool. So I wanted to ask you about Boss's Wife because you that was the movie where you were the romantic lead, but you were also very funny in it. And I just by watching it, I think you got a sense that you were maybe uncomfortable doing that, but it was actually a really good film.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't think I might have never seen that one, or I might have seen it at the screening. No, I mean, my theory, like, if you've picked me to be the romantic lead, we're already in trouble. I think that's what you were feeling in my performance. No, I mean, it was like, I said, I say this something like this in the book. It's like, if you've picked me, then I know you're a tall, skinny Jewish guy who sees himself in me, and that the movie's not going to be a hit because there's no way, you've got to have gone through every other romantic lead before. You got to go through Tom Hanks, Michael Keaton. You got to go. Now you're down. All right, who else? Anybody? How about that kid, Daniel Stern? It's like, yeah, okay, yeah, this one's going down. I never trusted myself as the lead in a movie. I like being the
The,
second banana.
the
I like,
sidekick, yeah.
yeah, there's more character stuff. I don't think I'm that interesting, the inherently on film, the way film, I mean, I'm an interesting person in my own way, but just the way the film captures me as opposed to, other people. The film, there's a magic thing that happens in the movies, and the camera loves you and the audience gets you and feels like they can read you. And you have to be open to that in a particular way as a movie actor. And I don't know. I do okay, but like I like playing the character and the not necessarily being the standing in for the audience.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, but I thought it was great.
Well,
So
I,
I just
I I didn't
wanted
mean to
to
disparage. Why am I disparaging my own movie? You're right. I was damn good in it and handsome as hell. And maybe we'll do a sequel to that.
Okay, yeah.
You play Martin Mull, and I'll no, you play me, and I'll play Ariel.
All right, let's do that. We got so many green-lighted projects. This is
Uh,
gonna be awesome.
Green
Uh,
lit.
so I want to respect your time, so I'll skip very bad things for part two, uh, but because that's a great
Oh,
movie,
that's a
and
pretty
I'm
good one.
oh yeah, but I
Have
mean
to
if you
stick that one I've seen. I love that one. That's a
yeah,
twisted, funny as hell. Again, that one showed me a way of making an audience laugh that I'd never been a part of before, just taking it to the limit in terms of violence and sick
yeah.
jokes and just absurd, out of control behavior. And I love doing that one.
I remember the stripping scene. Like at the time, like I have a huge crush on that stripper, right? And she's giving you a dance, and you're like, I can't, I'm married, like
Yeah,
everyone else.
yeah. Well, I mean, that was true. I felt that was coming from me. Like, I have to go home after this.
But that is just so funny because I mean, like,
Oh, glad it
uh,
hits you so hard, my friend. That's great. Yeah, no, Peter, that was Peter Berg's first movie. Again, so many funny people and talented and just twist. I mean, just right after that, she gets her head nailed to the door. You know,
yeah,
she's murdered. I mean, she's killed accidentally. It takes you up and down and up and down, and that was what was brilliant about that movie. That's I don't know if is that a cult, is that alive anymore? People should bring that one back. That's
it's probably one of the best dark comedies in the world. Yeah, for sure.
it really is. I'm really proud of that one. I
Yeah.
love that.
So my last question for you, Daniel Stern, is if you could go to a time machine and talk to a younger version of yourself, knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself, I'm not going to tell you anything because the only way you get through this is discovery. It's
Yeah,
one discovery after another, after another, after another. And I was like, I was an empowered kid, like I felt like I could do stuff. My parents sent me out on my own very early, right?
Yeah.
At 13, I was hitchhiking from all the East Coast. And I look, I mean, like that. We were on our own for weeks at a time. My parents not knowing where I was, but I took care of myself.
Yeah.
And I always went out on a limb to, then I dropped out of school and moved to New York, and then got married really early, and then had kids really early. And it's like I've always pushed myself to try the next thing. And then I became a sculptor, and then I started I keep trying to move forward. And so I don't think I'd tell myself anything, because it's the discovery is, and the thirst for it. And that's what I try to instill in the book, like that's what those movies are about. Home Alone is about a kid who can do it. Rookie of
Right.
the Year is about a kid who can do it, even though it seems impossible. Bushwhacked is about a bunch of kids who can get across the mountain, even though it seems impossible. And I lived my life that way. The Boys and Girls Club in real life creates kids who can feel that way about themselves. And it's the discovery of the whole thing. That's the whole point of this exercise. So, I've appreciated my letting my instincts take me places, and that's a good thing to instill in young people.
I'm so glad you said that, because for a second I thought you were going to say, "Hey Daniel, if Keith Reza asks you to do his podcast, say no."
You kidding? This has been a blast, my friend. You're a real
Well,
treat to talk to. You got, again. I see movie star. I
all right.
see movie star. I'm glad we zoomed so I could see this face.
Oh man.
And
All right.
uh, and
Well,
so yeah, I'll get my agent in touch with you. We'll get the paperwork going on
cool.
the film, the show, the sequel to, and are we
We're doing the comedy one
with the
first,
comedy first, and
then
then
the sitcom, then Boston. Like we got projects.
yeah, we got projects.
Yeah.
Hey, this is feeling good. This is
Uh,
feeling good.
well, Daniel, I know you don't do a lot of interviews, but thank you so much for doing mine. So thank you.
My pleasure.
All right.
Good to meet you. Okay, talk again.
All right. Have a great day, buddy.
You too. Bye.
All right. Bye. All right, guys. That was the relationship with Daniel Stern. Subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. Have a great day.
You're listening to Reza Riffs with Keith Reza and Alan Lee, right here on LA Talk Radio.